Ann, whenever you're ready. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Streets and Transportation Committee meeting. It is Thursday, October 20th, and I call this meeting to order at 2:02 p.m. Going to do a roll call vote. David Diefendorf.
Here.
Donna Mabry.
Here. Here.
Thank you. Elise Moore.
Here.
Let the record reflect John Geiger and David Mann are absent, and the chair is here. We have a quorum and can conduct business. I'm going to, I was going to give an update, but I'll do the approval of minutes first. The meeting held on September 15th, 2022, those were sent out via email. Does anyone have any questions, changes, corrections? If not, I would entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
I move we adopt the minutes.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the meeting held on September 15th, 2022. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the meeting minutes are approved.
Elise, you need to pull the microphone down to you.
Thank you. I want to thank Chief Banks, Kevin Williams, and Ann Womack for helping, for being present and helping us move this meeting along. And I want to give a brief update on the committee structure. I've renominated everyone that's on the committee to continue on the committee. We had one vacancy and received 3 applications because of, and I have nominated Chris Galanti to take on our vacant spot based on his professional experience. I think we all got to know Chris a little bit with his involvement on the Munson Street, and this is what he does for a living, so I thought he was the best addition to the committee. So we will be voting on that tomorrow at our 2 o'clock commissioners meeting.
And who were the other applicants?
It was Jennifer Duncan and Mr. Good that's here with us as well. And like I said, it's only because of his professional experience that it's what he does for a living. So I thought he was the best fit. With that, I'm going to ask Mr. Williams to give us an update on the our recommendations for the sidewalk and curb. I'm sorry, just the curb at Columbia and Grove Street.
Right, so thank you, Commissioner, and as you may recall, the board approved moving that project forward, so it's in the design. We've got Beacon Engineering, who's doing up the formal design plans for it, and then we'll take it to the board in the spring for funding in FY24, so next year.
Okay, do we have any idea when that will be, when we would actually get it done?
If it goes according to that schedule, you know, it'd be in the budget for next year. We would probably, I don't know if we could get something done prior to the season, but we would probably wait till after the September and then do it in the fall.
Okay.
It's about this time next year would probably be our plan to do it that way.
Our plan to do it, all right. Any questions or comments from the committee? Any from the public? Ann, is that on? Thank you.
Walter Birmingham, 123 Hennepin Avenue. Is the next fiscal year, because it's been delayed too much along the way, that it can't be done before the next season?
It was never budgeted for in this year, Walter.
Right, that's correct. So we,
Yeah, but it was never budgeted at any number, but it's been discussed for a long, long time, and the demand's been put off, and the problems still exist. It seriously exists.
so, and I think the board agreed with that. So they said, okay, find some money to do the design out of this year's budget. So we found the money this year to do the design and get that. It'll take, take several months to do the physical design, then the advertisement solicitation. And then the money becomes available maybe 1 April if they vote to put it in the budget for the construction.
Okay, thank you. I think it's an excuse. Too many things drag and drag and drag, but not intricately involved, but it is so. And I ran into a situation the past couple of days. Hennepin Acres Security Patrol comes around the roundabout, goes behind the dairy store and pulls into the first parking spot.
Excuse me, Walter, can you speak into the microphone?
Sure, thank you. Pulls into the first parking spot, the most dangerous parking spot in town. And I said, all due respect, ma'am, I will not apologize. I said, it's very dangerous because everybody coming around the corner when you get ready to back out. And she said, they ought to cut the bushes down. And we're the same thing every year, the rose bushes and all the bushes on the backside as you go towards Columbia Avenue, they're too high. And I'm not doing the chief's job. It's not his responsibility. It's about enforcement. Somebody needs to ask the city manager to ask Ms. Lingo or tell Ms. Lingo that the bushes need to be lowered so vehicles coming around the corner, this is nothing new, so that people can see when they go around the corner. And maybe Mr. Good, who lives close enough, but it is dangerous. And if there was to be a crosswalk, that the mayor said that he wouldn't be for it unless there was a crosswalk, you wouldn't dare put a crosswalk there if you wanted to, because you couldn't see the cars coming around the corner. And we keep putting off and we keep putting off and we keep putting off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Walter. Yeah. Remember to state your name and relationship.
This is Jeffrey Good at 1 Grove Street. Well, I'm happy that it seems that the project is going to move along, but I'm sort of confused on the date. I mean, when would the actual official vote happen if we keep this fiscal 2024 in mind? When would the board decide to vote on this then?
In the middle of March.
Of
With-
2023?
Yeah, with an effective budget year starting April 1.
Okay, as you're very well aware, I brought up this issue in 2018, and Walt's right. The problem is not mitigated. It's still there, and I was really hoping, and I was thinking it was going to be done in 2023, not 2024. So, is there any way it could be done in 2023?
Yeah, I think what Kevin just said is it would be done in the fall of 2023.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said 2020.
No, the fiscal
Sorry.
year
Okay,
ends in
I got
2024.
confused.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
And I mean, since I've been aware of this, I'm trying to move it along and
Yes, I
get
know,
something
I know.
accomplished.
That's why I'm
If
sorry, I forgot. You deal with the fiscal year.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
with the calendar.
If we're able to do it sooner, there's nothing stopping us from doing it sooner. I think Mr. Williams is
Okay,
giving
I
a
take
a
back
worst
my
case.
remarks. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on this? Kevin, thank you for the update on that. Next on the agenda is an update and discussion related to our recommendations on the 300 block of Munson Street. I don't have an update because the mayor has not yet put it on an agenda. I suspect it'll be on our November workshop meeting to talk about those recommendations. But again, I think any cost that's going to go along with those recommendations would be included in the budget year starting April. So I think that's one of the reasons why we've not yet discussed it in our commissioner meetings, because it is somewhat budget related as well. Any questions or comments on that? Walter?
Walter Birmingham, 123 Hanopen Avenue. Within the last month, I stopped. I happened to see the owner of the property immediately behind Rise Up, the old 7-Eleven on Grove Street, and happened to mention to him that there was a discussion about the crosswalk and the work going on in the area, and suggested to him that he might like to, in advance of being told at the very last moment, that he might like to look at his bushes and wood structure that comes out onto the sidewalk. I'm that kind of person. I'm try to be forward thinking. He said, well, we'll just see what happens when it happens, because there's a piece of sidewalk there. So it doesn't matter if they do, they do fund the sidewalk. That's part of this project about when you come across at the crosswalk, if it gets built, the attitude of the people, they care about what they care about, but why can't be part of the comprehensive thing? So if you can't have a sidewalk complete from the Rise Up all the way over to the crosswalk crossing State Road, people are going to walk in the street. And that's what we're trying to get away from. And that's an attitudinal thing, and the city ought to announce to the people what's going on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Any other comments from the committee? Next is a discussion about a recommendation of a comprehensive traffic parking and safety plan in Rehoboth. We charged, Ann, could you put the camera on? Elise Moore was kind enough to put together some verbiage for us to make a recommendation to the mayor and commissioners. Oh, thank you. So if we can.
Is this all of it, the one page?
I'm sorry.
Is this all of it, the one page?
Yeah.
It's really
this.
just a
Okay.
paragraph.
Can you zoom out just a tiny bit more? Elise, do you mind reading it, or would you like me to?
I can read if you want. The Rehoboth Beach Streets and Transportation Committee recommends the City of Rehoboth seek a professional traffic study. This study would include a comprehensive analysis of parking locations, loading zones, and emergency vehicle access. The City of Rehoboth requires an effective traffic and parking management plan that helps to strategically maximize existing parking assets without compromising the character of downtown Rehoboth Beach while supporting its long-term success. The traffic study should identify current traffic patterns and problems in and around the city of Rehoboth Beach, specifically in the more congested areas of Rehoboth Avenue, Wilmington Avenue, and Baltimore Avenue, from the boardwalk to 2nd Street. The study should make recommendations and prioritize them for improvements in order to reduce congestion and emergency vehicle access. Loading and unloading zone recommendations should be included, allowing access for commercial deliveries, reduce double parking, improve traffic flow, and promote turnover in designated loading zones.
Thank you.
Very nice.
So a little bit of background. This committee made recommendations regarding left turns on Rehoboth Avenue year-round. The response from the mayor and commissioners were, let's have a holistic list of recommendations that are comprehensive. We've received correspondence from the fire department that expresses concerns over their ability to respond to emergencies with the number of double parked delivery vehicles. We've had recommendations come before us with reducing the speed limit on some of the streets or in the entire town. And there's been other items that we've talked about that we've not felt like we can make a proper recommendation without there being a comprehensive study done. And this would coincide with parking, which the mayor and commissioners have indicated that there would be likely an appetite to have a parking study done in this next fiscal year as well. So this recommendation would be that both are done together and would coincide. And Elise, thank you for putting this together. Does anyone have any recommendations on the language here, if it needs to be revised at all?
I have one. So the second sentence, it says the study would include a comprehensive analysis of parking locations, loading zones, emergency vehicle access. Do we want to talk about speed limits? Do we want to talk about crosswalks? Do we want to physically mention that in there?
So add speed limits and crosswalks.
Well, I think anything we want to study besides just saying a comprehensive, I would put them in the write-up if there's anything else that we want to talk about, want to look at.
I'm trying to think of some other recommendations that we made on that Munson Street issue. Was the use of driveway boxes.
Driveway boxes, we talked about double yellow lines, we talked about speed signs.
Speed.
And the electronic speed signs.
Electronic speed signs.
They talked speed bumps, we didn't recommend speed bumps. I think those were the 4 things that we recommended.
Maybe we could say, and other safety devices such as silent policemen, speed bumps, electronic speed signs, et cetera. There might be new creative things that people are using now that we're not even aware of. I think that would be helpful to outline that.
Well, right, I think we could add those, and I think you're right, it'd be comprehensive while we're at it. I think the other thing dawned on me that we would want to mention, it's a complaint we get the most, and that's the traffic circle. So I think we should mention the traffic circle and have some professionals look at that.
Sure, we can, I think Rehoboth Avenue, we can parenthesize, including the circle. Any comments from the public? Yeah, sure, come on up. Jeffrey, you can use that one if you just want to switch the, there's just a button on the front there, just push it up. There you go, thank you.
Jeffrey Good, 1 Grove Street. I second Ms. Marbury's
Mabry, long A, Mabry.
suggestion about the traffic circle. I'm well aware of the traffic circle. I live right by it, and people just don't even want to cross that circle anymore. Like I don't. I go a block up normally and then cross further into town. It is so dangerous because cars cannot see pedestrians crossing the street. And if they happen to be going more than like 30 miles an hour, they could be a close accident. I know there's not a lot of serious accidents around the traffic circle, mainly because it's so busy there. But there's a lot of close calls and a lot of honking every day. Honking. And so, yeah, if your study could look at that, that'd be great. And maybe putting, like you have good traffic lights on Rehoboth Avenue closer to the middle of the town. So maybe you could have, instead of those little yield signs that flash a little bit, that half the cars don't really pay attention to, if you had like a serious light there that said yield, you know, like you do on, say, 2nd Street, would stop. I think that would help also. And then maybe eventually do a whole study of the traffic circle alone to redesign that circle for a much bigger city than it was probably planned for. So that's all. I'm just seconding.
Thank you. Yeah.
Honors.
And I think we've talked about this, and I think getting some professional input would be helpful to help carry the discussion further. And
Absolutely.
I think, like, just to follow up, we want to just make sure we have this worded correctly, because we want to make sure they get everything that we were talking about, the circle, the speed limits, the silent policemen, just like you said. So I think we would just tweak that wording a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think
So one thing that I don't know how to best incorporate this, but just pedestrian and cyclist safety as well. And, you know, I don't know if it's appropriate or not to include in this the use of things like sidewalks. I mean, we've got, you know, Columbia Avenue, we have a huge amount of city right-of-way with no sidewalk, and very confusing. What's a driveway, what's not a driveway, where can I park, where can I park, whether something like that should be included in this as well.
So the clearer we make this, the clearer
It's going to be.
it's going to be when you go out to solicit a bid from somebody, exactly what we're looking for.
We might phrase like the addition of sidewalks on some streets. Would that be a way to phrase it, addition of sidewalks?
Potentially additions of sidewalk.
Adding sidewalks in some streets?
Should I take out the sentence about specifically that area? That's what we had discussed last meeting, you know, Baltimore, Wilmington, but should I just take that out? So we do a comprehensive study of everything instead of focusing just on those three, or that little square?
I think it's good to leave in Baltimore and Wilmington. I mean, because,
Maybe we attach that specifically to the loading and unloading zones. Because I think that's really the biggest problem on those streets.
Got it.
Walter?
Walter Birmingham, 123 Hanover Avenue. Are you thinking to bring this up in budget session to look at funding this for the next fiscal year?
Yeah.
Okay, I have repeatedly told, I don't often tell, but sometimes I'm of a disposition to the chief that he needs to apply for more people. And only of the last 3 or 4 months has the Board of Commissioners, not this group, the Board of Commissioners, come back, and everything seems to come back lack of enforcement. So you can't have enforcement unless you have authorized enforcement people. And the board needs to have a simple recommendation to request the commissioners please sufficiently fund the police department additional personnel for every shift to put the people out on the street to help with the enforcement, because you have cadets out there and the chief says they can write tickets for anything, but if they can, they're not. We have too many times at McDonald's on Rehoboth Avenue, their feet are propped up against, that's First Street and Rehoboth Avenue, their feet are propped up against the building and people say, parking divisions say, I can't talk to the police department, et cetera. We need enforcement, and therefore it needs to be funded. And then it falls, the next thing is, do enough people apply that can pass the drug, alcohol, and all the other tests. But the chief needs, in my opinion, help, sufficient funding, because God help, when we have people with some kind of benefit of race or something like that, we have all kinds of people come to town, and we have enough people to do that. Sometimes we chase people off the boardwalk, but we need money put in the budget to fund those people. Thank you.
Thanks, Walter. I can personally speak to this. Enforcement has been a common theme, I guess, the past few months on many different topics. And I completely plan on supporting and advocating that every department is adequately funded for people to do their jobs. So thank you for that comment, Walter. Anything else? I guess the game plan here is we'll make these few changes.
And how about I send out to the whole committee to get there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could just send it out to the entire committee and just remind people to reply to you only, don't reply all.
Okay.
Just, we're not breaking any FOIA
Gotcha.
requirements.
Okay.
All right, anything else on this topic? All right, next is the,
I'm sorry, one thing. So the plan would be, she'd send it out to us, and then we would chop it, mark it up, she would come back with something complete so we could push it forward next
Vote it
month.
on the next meeting.
Perfect.
And I'll give the commissioners an update tomorrow, just saying, hey, this is forthcoming. I think I've already had a conversation with the mayor about it, so, and the city manager, so they know that the recommendation is coming. We just want to make sure that the wording is correct. Donna, we talked about the safety brochure and bicycle map, and I think you were going to take a look and see if there's any recommendations that we want to think about making to the city.
Well, I sent you those photographs, pictures. No, I wasn't taking that on necessarily, but after we
Okay.
talked, since you want to follow up, what I had referenced the last time was, I think there are two brochures that could be put together, integrated, that would work nicely. And like I've had a total of 4 brochures that we've had, okay, for the city, bicycles and walking, et cetera. Okay, I think we all agree these bigger ones are too big, okay? So, but in addition to the most recent, the one that the homeowners did.
Yeah.
Okay, kind of, in addition to that, we also have this one. And this was a Rehoboth bicycle-friendly street guide. It's not dated. But what I like about this one is it's a little bit larger than this one, okay? And so last month, I had mentioned integrating these two, and I think people didn't remember this particular one. But this is a tri-fold, this is a quad-fold. They touch a lot of the same, but this one has some nicer diagrams about safety. I think if they're put together, they're comprehensive. And I think it would be best that those folks who are already experienced in writing up these kind of guides, that they would be the ones to integrate them, whether that, the city communications director, and I think we like this one for sure, and I think we like this size. So that was.
So we've already made a recommendation that the city take on the expense of duplicating some of the aspects of the homeowners association guide.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a problem asking that the city incorporate sort of the larger map and aspects from that? I've never seen that bicycle guide before.
Yeah, and it's not dated yet. I can't find a date, so I'm not sure when it came out. Anybody here recognize this or have an idea when this one came out?
I recognize it. I'd have to say it's early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's 15 years old.
15?
First time it's
I thought we said last month that wasn't being distributed anymore. I thought that was the,
Yeah, I don't think
The
it's being
opinion.
distributed. I think it was an older version we've had. I don't know where I got it. I maybe had it in my drawer. I've been around 15 years. It could have been there.
But essentially, what we would be asking to do is just make it a little bit bigger as a quad fold instead of a tri-fold.
And I think they offer some different information. They offer more numbers. I think, integrating the content too.
Does anyone have a problem with that? Just leaving it up to the city manager's discretion on, okay. I will pass that along.
Do you think you can get another copy of it, Ed, or?
That one?
Right.
No idea.
that's probably the only one in the free world around.
I might ask you to take some pictures and send it to me.
I did already send you one.
Oh, did you? I don't
Or maybe
remember.
today what I'll do, I'll get a color copy.
Okay.
How about if I get a color copy and I'll hold on to one and I'll give you one?
That would be great, thank you.
I was just going to ask if I could, related to bicycle safety. We spent a lot of time and effort this past spring, and we put a whole bunch of sharrows
Sharrows,
down
yep.
on the order of 200 or 250 sharrows down. It'd be, if you could get some feedback as to whether that helped bike traffic throughout the city, whether it hurt bike traffic, caused more issues with calls, complaints, or whatever, we would appreciate, because obviously if they're down now, it's something we want to refresh each year so that they're looking good, or let them just kind of fade away if they didn't serve a purpose.
Let me specifically put that on an agenda for next month and solicit feedback specifically to those, and maybe the chief will have some some background on that by then. Mr. Brittingham?
Walter Brittingham, 123 Hanopen Avenue. I've spoken with several people in the past and was kind of surprised because we had bigger maps beforehand that were driven towards the bicyclists, and nobody likes them because they don't want to carry anything. They're carrying all the records on their phones. So that's how people travel today. They do everything on their phone.
I thought of that, but you know what? The phones aren't big enough to give you a good map, a good perspective. I think people might like this, being able to see a map in a larger version to help you find your way around instead of
I think we
little-
also talked about making one of those codes. Is it a QRL code? And then you can then upload it to your phone. So I think the chief had talked about
And to
that.
help with this, on this one, it does have something like that where it says download a PDF. So that technology existed when this was made.
But
It's been around for a while. It was just never used until COVID.
the bicycle's interest is specifically different from the people walking. We have so many more people, in my opinion. And I live on Hanopen Avenue, and we have people coming up from the trail from North Shores, and they go to the park and through the park and out of town. In many cases, they want to know how to get places. They're very interested, when I tell them there's clean restrooms at the end of the street. And then a lot of people want to go across. Probably one of the worst, not the worst problems we have, we don't have many problems, is what the hours are when they end up at the sidewalk at Surf Avenue and Lake Avenue, because they want to go down the sidewalk. And he just does not have the personnel to handle the one-way traffic and all the things that are going on in the city. But if they know what the rules are, simplified for the bicycles, I think. But Lordy, don't make it a big map. Make it a fold out this way. Just make it easy for them to carry, because it needs to
I
fit in
think
their
that's-
basket. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of that, just bicycle safety, and people do use their phones so much, and I've seen young kids crossing streets on their bike with a phone in their hand. Now, that can't be safe. They're not looking at they're crossing traffic. And, are cities or other cities looking at that? Should there be a phone holder on a bike? Can we require more safety features on a bicycle? Because some bikes, a lot of bikes do have that now, where you can put your phone, so you can do it hands-free. And
So Chief, you can get a DUI on a bike, right? Can you also get a holding your phone ticket as well?
Short answer is yes. Getting it through the courts all the way is a different story. Anytime you come up with a new law, I will always say, new laws are irrelevant if you're not willing to enforce. And I'll put it right out there. We always get a lot of complaints, especially from bicyclists, that, we're trying to be friendly, not use up all the parking spaces, and yet you're giving me a ticket for running a red light, or now you can go through a stop sign, but you still have to stop at this. So again, and then I get phone calls from businesses. You're hurting my business because you're enforcing, what they call, like, if you don't have a bicycle holder. So I just caution, if you're going to do it, make a law, make sure it's one that you're ready for us to enforce. Because without enforcement, it's useless to have something on the books if it's not enforced, as Mr. Brittingham's talked about.
I don't think we ought to in my personal opinion, get into making a law about someone holding the phone or a bike holder. That's beyond what we're here to do, in my opinion.
well, one thing we might a beginning step might be require the bike rental shops to add that as a feature. That wouldn't be too expensive, that on their rental bikes, they add a phone holder. So it becomes more of a recognized, important piece of equipment.
Good.
And that might be a step, and
But there's laws on the books right now for you can't hold a phone when you drive. And how many people do we constantly see texting while driving? Everywhere, not just in the city, everywhere.
And it's a civil citation, so we have to change our laws up to reflect that too for a bicycle, as far as for our Alderman's Court.
But here, they do have laws about that. They do have equipment that you can have a phone holder, that sort of thing, you know, so,
Well, we are getting a little off topic. So if we want to pursue this, I would have to add it on another agenda. I don't think I've got any appetite to do that. David, it didn't
No.
sound like you do.
I don't want to do that.
I think it's a good idea to ask the bike shops to do that, just to ask them.
Well, I will put this on a,
Because it is
Another
becoming, you know, you see it more and more and more. You see it even on the trail. You see the guys going so fast, and even they have their phone on their thing so they can pace how far they're going without looking at their watches.
all right, to be continued.
What? I think
I was
Chief
just gonna, no, he's moving on to next month, I'll talk about it. I was just saying, I don't disagree with what you're saying, I just, about the enforcement, we need to.
Yeah,
Just
which is,
have it, make sure, it's useless if you don't enforce.
well, and as you said, more and more people are using their phones.
So it sounds like I'm going to ask the city manager to look at incorporating
I'll give it,
that other bicycle guide into this one as we get it produced for the next season. So we've got a course for there. Any other discussion on the bicycle or walking guides? New business, I mentioned briefly at the last meeting. I've gotten several complaints and requests for a silent policeman at the corner of, or at the crosswalk at Surf and Pennsylvania Avenue. There currently is one at Oak, is the only one over there. Ann, could you turn on the computer screen? Chief, in this area, this is Lake here, turns in at this corner here, turns into Surf. And here's Pennsylvania Avenue. There currently is a crosswalk here. And then the next street down there is also a crosswalk with a silent policeman. What I've heard from people that live and have kids here on Pennsylvania Avenue is they walk and go to the beach and people are flying around that bend there and are not yielding to people that are trying to cross. So they'd like a silent policeman there to help remind people. And that's the request. Chief, do you have any statistical information on any police reports in this area?
Seeing that it was on the agenda, I quickly did a cursory check as far as accidents. There's no accident-related pedestrian or bicycle accidents at that particular intersection. But I think it would probably be nice to have one for consistency. I would leave it up to the sign shop to decide exactly the location because you want to be cognizant of any vehicles, trucks, trailers making a radius turn that can go around it. So I would leave it up to them if it was approved by the commission, but otherwise I don't see any issues with that.
So this is the one at 1 Street up at Oak.
Oak and Deauville?
So that is what we've been asked about. Any comments?
I think it's a good idea. I've driven by there various times this summer, and yeah, that's a busy intersection with kids and people just like the one further down, and so I think those silent policemen help. And it's sort of consistent with what's down at North Shores. You know, there's several of them down there, and it does slow people down. And
Yeah, I think it makes sense, especially, you just want to remind people that there's, people are crossing, especially when they turn that corner there. I mean, I think it should probably be on the other side of the street there, so people see it when they turn around that bend.
I think people coming into town that aren't necessarily used to it, they come downtown, they've had to be slow, they think, okay, now I can start going. I think, and they can't. There's more pedestrians, there's more people. And you don't see it as you're going around the bend. So I would agree that it's a really good idea.
Yeah, I don't know why there's one at Oak and not here. But yeah, I would be in favor of recommending that we do that.
Yeah, I think there's more pedestrian traffic at the other intersection where there's, what I noticed, there's more there.
Mr. Williams?
I would just offer that this would be another thing, maybe you ask if you're going to go forward with the study, maybe you look at where these would be appropriate. I mean, because everybody wants one, and all they do if they call here say, well, should we put one on Hickman Street? Well, yeah, because there's a lot of people that walk across it. And maybe that's the right answer. Maybe every intersection gets a silent policeman. But then you're pretty well littered with silent policemen, and there's the cost of that, and then snowplows rip them up, and you have to redo them the next year, and those kind of things. So they come with a cost. It's not a great cost, but there is a cost associated with it, and then the time and effort of maintaining them.
Yeah.
But every time somebody comes and asks for one, it's very hard to say, well, that's already a safe intersection. Why do we need to make it safer? And it's just not in our nature to say, well, we're not going to help make it safer in any way. So it's very easy to say, yeah, let's just add one there. But it'd be nice to say, okay, do we need every one at King Charles, every intersection, or maybe it's every other, or whatever, but a holistic look at where the effective use of the silent policeman is, because we piecemeal it to death. Every year we get one or two. Can you put one here? And they'll talk to the city manager, and city manager say, yeah, put one out there, and we'll put one out there. And it just keeps growing. So, but a good holistic look about where these things would make the most sense would be helpful for the guys that are putting them out and maintaining them.
Yeah. Thank you.
I agree 100% with him. And then we talked about adding something in her write-up, something about the silent policeman,
Safety devices,
yeah,
including.
definitely.
Yeah.
I will do that.
So, this study is going to be a year plus out probably by the time we get results. Because we do want, depending on timing, we want them to not do it in the wintertime when no one's around. They need to be looking at it in the busy season. So hopefully that may happen this summer, but it may not, depending on timing and availability and everything like that. In the meantime, do we want to make a recommendation putting one here while we're taking a more holistic look at it for the future?
Yeah, I agree.
I would say that it's a very busy area.
Yeah.
If we could do anything to slow traffic down, I know it causes trouble for the snowplows and everybody else, but.
Do you want to take a vote on it, Ed?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to make a motion, Donna?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we recommend that there be a silent policeman put at the intersection of Surf and Pennsylvania Avenue.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Right, we've got a motion by Donna and a second by Elise to put a silent policeman at the corner or at the intersection of Surf and Pennsylvania Avenue. Before I take a vote, I'm going to ask if there's any members of the public. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Yeah, please. Go ahead, Walter.
I appreciate this, good pictures, good graphics. This is what all it exists for, on the Avenue and Road. But the rules are no parking within 20-foot of crosswalk. I'm not asking you to remember that, Chief, because that's pretty close. And part of the problem is, many people coming across here, and the city, without coming back to this committee or anybody else, went to stone 2 blocks from Park Avenue over, and didn't come along and ask about getting rid of all the foliage that's on the city. Easterly of the sidewalk is the city right away. But the problem is, there should no parking should be allowed here, because people stand back here and they park every place they can. So you got a vehicle sitting here, and you have short children. Most children are short, and adults, a lot of times the kids are here ahead of time. So this needs to be cleaned away, and it needs to have watch the children sign, and there needs to be enforcement to be sure that the cars are parked off the roadway. So when their car doors are open, because we're here at the beach, and we don't have to worry about, they leave their car doors open over the roadway, because they can't get off the roadway. And that'll disappear. And just like you can use stone and half and half of the city, and I guess the homeowners, just as easy, our front end loader can go down there and take those bushes out and make them safe. But every place there's a crosswalk, there is by law, should be no parking in that area as you go, in this particular case, from north to south, heading towards the Rehoboth. And yes, it has a cost because you lose a parking space that's addressed by a parking permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Future agenda topics. I've got bicycle safety, including but not limited to a potential phone holder.
I have one.
Yeah.
So I received an email from a neighbor, and I also went down and talked to him. He's on King Charles, and he's very concerned about the corner of Hickman and King Charles. He was unable to make the meeting today, but he's concerned about the diagonal parking right there at the corner. So the diagonal parking goes down until Newcastle Street, and then it all goes to parallel parking along King Charles, because I know there's more diagonal parking for the around the church. But he's very concerned at the intersection when those cars are parked diagonally, you can't see anybody walking across the street, which is, again, we're back to the same thing of safety and parking and the comprehensive study. Yeah. But anyway, I would suggest we put that on the agenda at least just to talk about it.
Okay, will do. Also, a review of the, an analysis of the sharrows and if they've been successful or not. Anything else?
One thing, I don't know that it's an item we have to discuss, but just a reminder that if we can try to get materials to Ed early so that Ed, you can attach them to the agenda. The last couple times we've, it's helpful just to have any documents we're going to look at, like the last week's photographs, you know, Chris Galante's information, this, you know, I know it's hard to get everything together a week before, but if it, even if it were in 3 days, we had 3 days in advance to look at materials. It just makes it easier for our discussions.
Good point, thank you. Anything else? All right. Any last comments from the members of the public?
Walter Brittingham, 123 Henlopen Avenue. When you come from the Henlopen and you come up First Street, and I call it McDonald's on the corner, at Rehoboth Avenue, at the stoplight, and just, well, in any case, several years ago, Mayor Cooper, I'm not picking on him, didn't like it, but there were pads put down at the corners, step back, et cetera, and they got ripped up. They didn't come ask the city if they could put them down. So a lot of people, when they're coming there, they want to be first across First Street. And they stand right up with their toes on the edge of the curbing. And I think it needs to be investigated, input from the state, and it's a pad that they put down. It's got beveled edges, maybe the chief remembers them. So it's a step back for your own safety, because when you pull up there, that is the right turn lane. And I tell people, I blow the horn and get back out of the way. They're just interested, and they literally are across, they are into the traveled way. Separately, I ask you if you all know that there is a law for distracted walking. and that is a person walking across the street or walking across an intersection, having a conversation on a cell phone is potentially guilty of distracted walking. We're not going to get that in Rehoboth. Nobody wants anybody to be that mean, but let somebody get hit, and the problem is back there's nobody out there. They'll be standing there, and nobody will say anything about, you need to put the phone down when you cross the street. They got problems enough. They won't even hold their little kids' hands. You can't tell people how to raise their family, but you sure as hell can tell them, when you're going to cross the street, put the phone down. It's just like if a policeman comes, a regular policeman, a certified policeman, they're going to obey more than they are a bicycle officer. But we've lost it in Rehoboth because we don't enforce the laws. In some cases, we don't even know what the laws are ourselves, let alone anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. What are those called, Chief? Pedestrian crossing pads?
They were step-off pads, I think.
Step-off pads.
What they were calling that. I believe it was a campaign years back from Office Highway Safety was looking at them. I haven't seen them for a while, but they did go around and start placing them, as Walter mentioned. I think there was no communication, and they just started appearing, and some people didn't like them on the sidewalks.
Okay. All right, noted. All right, thank you. Anything else? Any comments from the committee? All right, well, with that, meeting adjourned at 2:54. Thank you.
Yeah. Yay, we ended early.